right, welcome back, guys. We are on lesson 6 and we are correcting mistakes. So we're just going to start here at the beginning doing something. I'm just going to show you another way to solve these problems, okay? So first I'm going to do this in the regular way and then I'm going to show you a shortcut way. All right, so if I'm looking over here, right, we can use the distributive property and pull 3 out because 3 goes into both numbers. I can divide it. So I can take the 3 back out. Okay, remember when we put it in and now we can take it out. Okay, and then I can divide both sides by 3 and I'm left with x plus 4, which is equal to 11. And then I can subtract the 4 from both sides and I know that x is equal to 7. And I can take the 7 and I can put it back in here and I know 7 times 3 is 21. Plus 12 is 33. So I know I got the right answer. Okay, I always do that and I always make sure I check to make sure I got the right answer. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to pull that 3 out. Now, I'm still going to divide both sides by 3. Okay, notice I didn't write it down on both sides. And then I'm going to add, or I'm going to subtract 4, and that's going to be 7. Okay, and I can take the 7 and put it back in and do the same thing. But notice that there's steps that I did not include. Okay, so I did not show those steps there. Okay, now you will never be expected to not show your steps when you're solving problems. In fact, you should always write out all the steps so that you can check understanding, or I can go in and I can check understanding. It's very easy for me to see when you're showing your steps what you did wrong. I become an investigator when you're looking at one like this and going, okay, so that's not right. What did they do wrong? But if you write all the steps out, it's really easy to see right away. So I'm going to show you this. So what are the missing steps here for these solutions? If I'm looking at A, so I'll walk you through this one. So obviously, the first thing that I notice is I didn't show that I subtracted 5 from both sides. And then, so I didn't show that I subtracted 5, and then I didn't show that I divided both sides by 3. Okay, so those are the steps that I didn't show in question A. Now in question B, C, and D, I just want you to pause and I just want you to think like what steps were not shown. You don't have to write them out, but I want you to analyze it and think about what's not there and then come back. Okay, remember doing is important. Okay, so if I'm looking at B, okay, obviously I did not show that I divided by 2. And then I did not show that I've subtracted by 5. And then D, I did not show that I added 3, and I did not show that I divided by 4. And D, I did not show that I added 2, and I did not show that I divided by 5. Okay, so looking at these, I want you to analyze them and think about, there's 2 worked examples to the same problem. One of them is obviously not right because they have different answers. So what would you do first to check to see who has the right answer? Okay, obviously you would multiply, and this one over here has a smaller number, so it's easier to check first. So that would be 12. 12 plus 6 is 18. Okay, so I know that solution number 1 is correct. Now I want you to really look at solution number 2, and I want you to analyze it and figure out what they did wrong. Okay, pause the video, come back. Okay, so the first thing they did is they took out the 2, which is fine because they divided both by 2, both of these, and so 6 divided by 2 is 3, so that's fine. Then to get rid of the 2, they divided this side by 2, and they divided this side by 2, but they didn't truly divide, they subtracted. So this is where they made an error right there. Now I'm just going to continue on to see if they made any other errors. So they subtracted the 3 here, subtracted, and everything else is right. But this is where they made their error. Okay, so I want you to do the same thing here. I want you to analyze these 4 different questions, and I want to see if you can find the mistakes below. Now notice I said mistakes, so there could be more than one mistake in one problem. So pause the video, make sure you really analyze this and find all of the mistakes that are there. Make sure you do the first step first. Pause. All right, so coming back. First thing first is I'm going to sub in the 6, right? Whoop, right there. So 6 plus 2 is 8. Or 6 plus 2 is 8. Times 5 is 30. So right off the bat, oh, whoops. I'm going to put that in there. So right off the bat, that was one thing that was written, the problem was written down incorrectly, but they corrected themselves here. Okay, so they used the distributive property and they put 5 into the problem. But when they multiplied in, they only multiplied it by the x. So here is our first mistake. That should be 10. Now let's see if they made any other mistakes, because they're going to just carry this mistake through. So now they've subtracted 2, but they didn't subtract 2 from this side. And now they have divided by 5 and they've reached 6. So they've got 2 problems here. Well, 3. They forgot to put this in the first place, but then they corrected themselves later on. And then they made a mistake here and they didn't subtract 2 here. All right, for this one. Okay, so they've decided to divide by 5 right away, but they did not divide by 5 here. So what they did to one side, they didn't do the other side, so they're not balanced on both sides. All right, so let's see if they just made any other error. So they got rid of the 2, they subtracted the 2 from both sides and ended up with 28. So this is where they made their mistakes. They did not divide by 5 on this side. Okay, looking at this question here, they subtracted by 8. That's good on both sides. So 22 minus 8, that's going to give me 14, so that's okay. And then dividing by 2, and then they subtracted by 2 on this side. So that is their mistake there. Okay. Now looking at this one, are there any mistakes here? So you would put the 7 in first, but I'm going to skip that step for now. Okay, again, so looking here, I've taken the 2 out, and then obviously they divided both sides by 2 because the 2 is missing on this side, and now 22 is 11. Okay, they've subtracted by 4, and they subtracted by 4, and this is 7. So this one is correct, and I would have saved myself the time if I just would have substituted the 7 in and said that's 14 plus 8 is 22. Okay, so you have just one page of work to do today just to practice finding and correcting mistakes. If you're having any problems with this and you didn't find the mistakes or you're making the same mistakes, please come to the help session.